Hi class, welcome to your second video. Today we are going to be discussing comparing and ordering decimals. So because this is a new topic, these are the last 2 pages of notes that we're going to take. We are now going to flip our notes and we're going to write directly on the back because like I think I said before, we don't want to waste a single page of our notebook. So we're going to go to the very next page. The back of it in this case is mine. And I believe everyone should be the same. So we are going to write down that we are taking notes on 8/30/19 because that is the date that I assigned it to you. If you are doing these notes on Saturday or Sunday, you can either put 8/30 or you can put whatever the date is on the weekend that you're doing. And then I just want you to write up at the top, comparing and ordering decimals. Comparing and ordering decimals, I think, is by far the easiest of every type of number to compare and order because you can line up the decimals. And that's exactly what your steps are going to be. So steps, your first step is to line up the decimals. And I'm going to have you leave a couple spaces, and we're going to do comparing examples. So our first example, when we compare, we are going to compare 4 44/100 compared to 4 34/100. So when we are comparing, the easiest thing that you can do is to line up your decimal. One goes directly on top of the other, like so. If you need to, you can add zeros where needed. When we compare, we use our signs greater than, less than, or equal to. So I'm going to write these down. I do not need to add any zeros, so I can just leave it exactly as is. So when I compare, I just need to look. I always go right or left to right. Excuse me. So let's write down number 3. Do you want to compare or order left to right? So when I look at this, I look at that 4. Well, they're both 4, so I cannot do anything because they're both exactly the same. So they're the same. I'm going to leave that be. I can't even look at the 4s. So I'm going to look at the next column, which happens to be the tenths column. When I look at the tenths, I notice they are different. I am comparing, so I want to know which number is bigger, the 4 or the 3. Well, the 4 is bigger, so that means that 0.44 is bigger. So most of you guys learned that you need to put the opening of the sign eating the bigger number like an alligator. You can still think of it the same way. It's exactly the same thing. You just need to put the opening so it eats the larger number, and in this case I would say 4 44/100 is greater than 4 34/100. So let's try that again. If I give you 6.3 compared to 6.3 with a line above it. That line above it means that it is repeating, meaning it's continuing on and on and on forever and ever and ever, and it is never ever going to stop. So when I line up my decimals, I'm going to write 6.3 and 6.3 repeating. Here's the tricky part. They are not equal to, like a lot of students want to say, because that repeating line means that 3 is going to continue on and on and on. So I could keep putting a 3 down because that's what that line means. It means that 3 is never ever going to end. So I did my step 1, line up the decimals. Okay, my step 2 now says add zeros where needed. Well, I added extra 3's, so on the first one I need to add extra zeros. See the difference there? Repeating, I added 3's. Non-repeating, I add zeros. Then I compare in order from left to right. So I look, my 6's are the same. I cannot compare those numbers. I look in the tenths column, I have a 3 and a 3. I cannot compare those numbers. They are the same. Go to the next column, I have a 0 and a 3. 3 is bigger than 0, so I circle the one that has the 3, which means the 6.3 is the bigger number, which means my opening is going to eat my bigger number, which means 6.3 is less than 6.3 repeating. Hopefully that made some sense. I'm going to have you guys do 2 examples here for your homework in your notebooks that you need to finish on your own. Okay? So the example that I'm going to give you is 14.1 and 14.12 and then 62.9 paired to 61.3. So compare those 2 for me. Show me like I did here. That way you're proving you know what your answer is. Okay, so that's comparing. Those are how we compare. When we order, so here are our ordering examples, we are doing exactly the same thing. We still have all of our same steps. Line up the decimals, add zeros where needed. Okay, compare order from left to right. That's the step that I'm going to show you now. So we are going to do our ordering examples from least to greatest. We could also do greatest to least. You need to make sure you read the directions and do whatever it asks you to. So my first example that I'm going to give you is 4.3, 4.3 repeating, 6.1, 2.4, 7.9, 5.8. So as I said, step number 1, line up the decimals. I want to write 4.3, 4.3 repeating, 6.1, 2.4, 7.9, and 5.8, all going up and down, all having those decimals all lined up. I'm going to zoom in here for you guys so it gets a little bit closer so you guys can see. So I'm going least to greatest, which means I want to pick the smallest number first. Well, my smallest number in this case, if I look at the ones column, ends up being the 2.4. So that is my first number, which means I'm going to write 2.4 off to the side, and I'm going to put a comma, 2.4, comma. Then I need to find the next smallest number. Well, I see 2 4s. Now I see a 4.3 and a 4.3 repeating. Those 3's are the same, but remember that repeating sign means that 3 continues, where if there's no repeating sign, it means I just add a 0. So now it's the question of, I have 33 and 30. Well, is 33 smaller or is 30 smaller? 30 is smaller, so my next smallest number that I'm going to put is 4.3. I'm not going to keep that 0. I'm going to leave it off because I don't want it. The original number is 4.3. And then I know that after it is going to be that 4.3 repeating. Then I go back to the ones column again. Find the next smallest number. I see a 5.8. So my next smallest is 5.8. Go back to the ones column again. I see a 6.1. I know that's my 5. And last but not least is my 7.9. So notice I looked at the ones column first, and then I looked at the tenths column. And then if you need to go to the hundredths column, you go to the hundredths column. But I'm going in order from left to right that entire time, just like you read a book. So we're going to do one more together, and then I'll give you a few that you can, just probably one that you guys can do for some homework. So once again, I'm going to write comparing and ordering up at the top because I used another page. With today's date, 8/30/19. And here's our example. We're going to do 6.21, 6.11, 6.134, 6.247, 6.23. And we're going to stop there with those ones. So step number 1, line up your decimals. So take those numbers and write them going up and down. If you are a person that has a hard time staying organized, use lines to help split up your numbers. So I would draw a line all the way down my decimals so I know that those 6's are all in the same column. I would then draw a really poorly drawn line there for my tenths column. I would then draw another line there for my hundredths column. Now I have 2 numbers in my thousandths column, which means I need to add 3 zeros to make sure that I have the exact same amount of numbers in each column. And now I start comparing from left to right. I look at the 6's. They're all the same. So I cannot compare any of those because they're all the same. I then look at my second column. I want the smallest number. Well, I have 2 1's and 3 2's. 1 is the smallest number, so I need to look at these 2 lines first. But I have to still go one more over into that third column, into that hundredths column, and notice I have a 1 and a 3. I need to pick the number that is the smallest. The 1 is the smallest, so the 1 has to come first, and the 3 has to come second. Which means my order so far says 6.11 and 6.134. I get those out of the way. They're done. I'm going to cross them off so I don't even have to look at them anymore. I'm good to go with them. I'm going to go back to the beginning. We already crossed off all our 6's. Can't do anything. Go to the tenths column. I have 2's. Well, can't really do anything. They're all the same, so I'm going to cross them out. Go to my hundredths column. I have a 3, a 4, and a 1. I need to pick the smallest number. Well, the smallest number is a 1, so that is my third number. My next smallest number is a 3, so that is my fourth number. My next smallest number is a 4, so that is my fifth number. And then I can write them down. So I have 6.21, 6.23. Notice I did not add my extra zeros where I added them. and 6.247. And that is my answer in order from least to greatest. So I want you guys to do one more for your homework all by yourself. So here it is. 9.23, 9.32, 9.127, 9.134, 9.28, and 9.312. So put those numbers in order from least to greatest for me, and then you have completed your notes for comparing and ordering. And we will go over comparing and ordering on Tuesday and Wednesday after we get back from our 3-day weekend, with it being Labor Day. So I hope you guys have a great Labor Day weekend, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday. Have a great time, guys. Bye.